and in whom its sustenance and dissolution rest. He is the origin of all Prajapati, the personalities meant to produce living entities in this world. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Kardama Muni was ordered by his father, Prajapati, to produce children in the beginning of creation. And the Prajapatis were meant to produce the large population which was to reside in the planets of the gigantic universe. But Kardama Muni said that although his father was Prajapati, who desired him to produce children, gradually his origin was the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But actually, his origin was the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vishnu, because Vishnu is the origin of everything. He is the actual creator of the universe. He is the actual maintainer. And when everything is annihilated, it rests in him only. That is the conclusion of Srimad Bhagavatam. For creation, maintenance, and annihilation, there are three deities, Brahma, Vishnu, and Maheshwara, Shiva. But Brahma and Maheshwara are qualitative expansions of Vishnu. Vishnu is the central figure. Vishnu, therefore, takes charge of maintenance. No one can maintain the whole creation but he. In other words, only Lord Vishnu can maintain the whole creation. There are innumerable entities, and they have innumerable demands. No one but Vishnu can fulfill the innumerable demands of all the innumerable living entities. Brahma is ordered to create, and Shiva is ordered to annihilate. The middle function, maintenance, is taken charge of by Vishnu. Kardama Muni knew very well by his power in progressive spiritual life that Vishnu, personality of Godhead, was his worshipable deity. Whatever Vishnu desired was his duty and nothing else. He was not prepared to beget a number of children. He would beget only one child who would help the mission of Vishnu. As stated in Bhagavad Gita, whenever there is a discrepancy in the discharge of religious principles, the Lord descends on the surface of the earth to protect religious principles and to annihilate the miscreants. Marrying and getting a child is considered to liquidate one's debt to the family in which one is born. There are many debts which are imposed upon a child just after his birth. There are debts to the family in which one is born, debts to the demigods, debts to the Pita, debts to the rishis, etc. But if someone engages only in the service of the Supreme Lord, the personality of Godhead, who is actually worshipable, then even without trying to liquidate other debts, one becomes free from all obligation. Kardama Muni preferred to devote his life as a servant of the Lord in Paramahansa knowledge and to beget a child only for that purpose, not to beget numberless children to fill up the vacancies in the universe. Okay. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. So this verse today, text 20, says, the highest authority for me is the unlimited Supreme Personality of Godhead, from whom this wonderful creation emanates. and in whom its sustenance and dissolution rest. He is the origin of all Prajapatis, the personalities meant to produce living entities in this world. Okay, so Kardama Muni is a Prajapati also, and he was ordered by his father, who was Prajapati, to produce children in the beginning of creation, uh, and to produce children. So, in the beginning of creation, the Prajapatis were meant to produce the large population which was to reside in the planets of the gigantic universe. But Kardama Muni said that although his father was Prajapati, who desired him to produce children, actually his origin was the Supreme Personality of Godhead Vishnu, because Vishnu is the origin of everything. He is the actual creator of this universe. He is the actual maintainer. And when everything is annihilated, it rests in him only. That is the conclusion of the Srimad Bhagavatam. Okay, very profound statement here. Uh, Actually, we see that populating the universe is not a small task. It's a gigantic, gargantuan test. Let's say, uh, gargantuan endeavor, and so that so therefore you have to have the most highly qualified people in the universe who can do that. So these are called Prajapatis. They are uh, living entities who are capable of producing a huge number of other living entities. So, and we're not talking about only human beings. We're talking about all the different species are being produced by the different Prajapatis. So, therefore, you have human beings and you have uh, different animals, you have insects, and so forth. They're all coming from these Prajapatis. Uh, and so the Kardama Muni is a Prajapati to produce children. Okay. So Kardama Muni said that although his father was Prajapati, who desired him to produce children, actually his origin was the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vishnu, because Vishnu is the origin of everything. Well, that's an important statement. Uh, Sometimes people they get convinced that they should worship a demigod, and that's a mistake. If you worship Krishna, demigods are all satisfied. If you worship a demigod, or if you worship demigods, you'll never be able to satisfy. Why? Because demigods are not Supreme Personality of Godhead. They have powers, but uh, if you engage in service of Krishna, then all obligations are satisfied. If you worship demigods, then you're not going to be able to satisfy all obligations. So uh, Kardama Muni says that although his father was Prajapati, who desired him to produce children, actually his origin was the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vishnu, because Vishnu is the origin of everything. He is the actual creator of this universe. He is the actual maintainer. And when everything is annihilated, it rests in him only. That is the conclusion of Srimad Bhagavatam. Well, that should be our conclusion also, to understand that Lord Vishnu is the origin of everything. Now, why doesn't it just say Krishna is the origin of everything? Well, because Krishna does not have to do anything. However, uh, everything gets done by the let's say the thoughts of Krishna, but it's done through the agency of expansions of the Lord. So Vishnu is an expansion of the Lord, and he can do all the things that are necessary to populate the universe. So, is there a difference between uh, Krishna and Vishnu? No, there's no difference. The only difference is that Lord Vishnu is Lord Krishna is the origin of everything, and Vishnu is a plenary expansion of the Lord, who has uh, many of the same powers as the Lord, but not everything. That's why it says Vishnu is the origin of everything. He is the actual creator of this universe. He's the actual maintainer. And when everything is annihilated, it rests in him only. So, uh, that is the conclusion of Srimad Bhagavatam. For creation, maintenance, and annihilation, there are three deities, Brahma, Vishnu, and Maheshwara, Shiva. But Brahma and Maheshwara are qualitative expansion of Vishnu. Vishnu is the central figure because he's responsible for the maintenance. Brahma is for the creation, Maheshwara or Shiva is for the dissolution, but Vishnu is for the maintenance. That's the hardest thing. Maintaining is the hardest thing. Creating is okay. It's already difficult, but and annihilation is also difficult. So that you have Brahma, you have Shiva, but maintenance is the hardest, and that's Vishnu's service. And it says here, but Brahma and Maheshwara are qualitative expansions of Vishnu. Vishnu is the central figure. Vishnu therefore takes charge of maintenance. No one can maintain the whole creation but he, meaning Vishnu. There are innumerable entities and they have innumerable demands, but no one but Vishnu can fulfill the innumerable demands of all the innumerable living entities. Brahma is ordered to create, and Shiva is ordered to annihilate. The middle function, maintenance, is taken in charge by Lord Vishnu. Kardama Muni knew very well by his power in progressive spiritual life that Vishnu, the personality Godhead, was his worshipable deity. Whatever Vishnu desired was his duty and nothing else. He was not prepared to beget a number of children. He would beget only one child who would help the mission of Vishnu. As stated in Bhagavad Gita, whenever there's a discrepancy in the discharge of religious principles, the Lord descends on the surface of the earth to protect religious principles and to annihilate the miscreants. Marrying and begetting a child is considered to liquidate one's debt to the family in which one is born. There are many debts which are imposed upon a child just after his birth. Now, that's a very interesting point. Mm. As soon as a child is born, he or she has debts. Debts to demigods, debts to Krishna, Supreme Personality Godhead, debts to family members, debts to humanity, so many debts. And therefore, we are all conditioned in the material world to perform these debts. And it's what you would call sometimes overwhelming. Uh, but just imagine Lord Vishnu, he's in charge of the maintenance of the entire material creation. Uh, so Brahma creates, Shiva destroys, but Vishnu has to maintain. So that's much more difficult than simply creating or simply destroying. That's why only Vishnu can do that, because he is not, Lord Vishnu is not uh, uh, hamstrung by the uh, laws of material nature, whereas Brahma and Shiva are slightly influenced by the laws of material nature. Okay, so when it says here, Brahma is ordered to create and Shiva is ordered to annihilate. Well, who is ordering? We should understand that. Uh, the middle function, maintenance, is taken charge of by Vishnu. Well, the supreme personality of Godhead is Krishna. So somebody is ordering, uh, Brahma and Shiva. So that obviously is the supreme personality of Godhead, and uh, they're all qualitative, let's say, expansions of the Lord, of Krishna. But when we try and understand what is the hierarchical structure of power in the universe, it begins from Krishna, the Supreme Personality Godhead. And then there's Vishnu, and then there's Brahma and Shiva. So it's a hierarchical, let's say, uh, um, expansion for the creation and maintenance and destruction of the universe. There are innumerable entities and they have innumerable demands. No one but Vishnu can fulfill the innumerable demands of all the innumerable living entities. Brahma is ordered to create, and Shiva is ordered to annihilate. The middle function, maintenance, is taken charge of by Lord Vishnu. Kardama Muni knew very well by his power in progressive spiritual life that Vishnu, the personality of Godhead, was his worshipable deity. Whatever Vishnu desired was his duty and nothing else. He was not prepared to beget a number of children. He would beget only one child who would help the mission of Vishnu. As stated in the Bhagavad Gita, whenever there is a discrepancy in the discharge of religious principles, the Lord descends on the surface of the earth to protect religious principles and to annihilate the miscreants. Marrying and begetting a child is considered to liquidate one's debt to the family in which one is born. There are many debts which are imposed upon a child just after his birth. There are debts to the family in which one is born, debts to the demigods, debts to the pitas, debts to the rishis, etc. But if someone engages only in the service of the Supreme Lord, the personality Godhead, who is actually worshipable, then even without trying to liquidate other debts, one becomes free from all obligations. Kardama Muni preferred to devote his life as a servant of the Lord in Paramahansa knowledge, and to beget a child only for that purpose, not to beget numberless children to fill up the vacancies in the universe. Yeah. So here we see uh, the uh, the way things have evolved. in this universe. It's not according to Darwinism. This whole idea of Darwinism and his theory of evolution is complete nonsense. By the way, we should understand there's no such thing as gradual evolution. And when everything from the beginning is created. Now, this is difficult for people to understand because they've been bewildered by the false theory of Darwin. Darwin says that everything is created gradually, in one species and through some kind of, uh, way, some kind of mysterious process. Then another each species is created, and so forth. That whole idea, that whole narrative of Darwin is false. Has no. And by the way, there was an interesting statement made by uh, I forget, he was a uh, Indian, uh, uh, some years ago, who was working with Modi, and they stopped the teaching of Darwinism in the Indian schools.
Education ministry.
Yeah, and yeah, the education minister, and he said,
something like no one has ever seen a man come out of ape.
yeah, yeah, we never saw an ape born, a man born from an ape. So, and that's a fact. Now, when that happened, all the phony so-called scientists and educators in India, made a big, uh, you know, hullabaloo. In other words, they protested. That this is not possible. You're going, you're not, you're having children believe in some kind of religious idea, and they were completely against rejecting Darwin's theories. But I'm pretty sure that Darwinism is not being taught now in many uh, schools in India. We should look that up.
Yes, in public schools, they have stopped.
Yeah,
And they have removed from the textbooks as well. Those are the official books for the public schools.
wonderful. Kick him out. Kick him out. Yes.
Those researchers have signed petition to make this happen.
To make it happen, or they're against? Yeah, they're against it, right? Yeah, of course. They're all nonsense people. Oh, they're for it.
Yeah,
Okay.
signed the petition to remove Darwin theory from.
Oh, okay. But there's a lot of other people that are against it. Yeah.
One of my friends, he reads Bhagavatam every day, and he is realizing the how much our Sanatana Dharma has, like rishis have discovered, but he's still unwilling to reject the Darwinism. He still accepts Darwinism is correct. Our rishis have also what they have explored is also correct.
That's what's called wishy-washy. He doesn't have any principles. He accepts everything, the truth and the nonsense. Those type of people are very dangerous. You know, wishy-washy. You can't trust people like that. They're trying to uh, be all inclusive,
Yeah.
but they're including things that are nonsense. So you have to be able uh, to uh, understand what is real and what is false, right? You can't just say, well, like one time there was this uh, Nasruddin Hoja, and Nasruddin Hoja is well, I'm not sure he actually existed, but there are a lot of he's a personality in Islam, and it's like you have in India, you have uh, uh, what's his name, Birbal, right? Right. So he's like the Muslim Birbal, right? He's always some of it is very funny, but usually it will have some philosophical meaning, right? So one day, Nasrat Hoja was speaking to a man that came that was very upset, and he was complaining about someone. And after hearing the complaints, Nasruddin Hoja said, "You're right." Then the person that was arguing with the person, the Hoja said, "You're right." He said, "Wait a minute, Hoja, you can't say this." And then he gave a long explanation why the other guy was wrong. And Hoja said, "You're right." And then Hoja's wife, who was hearing all this, she said, "Hoja, what kind of nonsense is this? You can't say he's right and the other one is right." And he said, "You're right." Yeah, yeah.
So I was looking what did the schools that replaced Darwinism replace it with? Like what study did they replace it with?
Yeah.
And it's the same theory of evolution, it's just molecular evolution.
Molecular evolution.
Molecular.
Yeah. Do you understand what molecular evolution is? Well, what was the other evolution there? The one that they so-called threw out. You see, that the whole thing is nonsense because what people don't understand is everything was created in the beginning of time. There's no such thing as evolution. Krishna created everything at once, and he has the power to do that. And this is what the mundane scholars can't understand. You know, so they're never going to let go of the theory of evolution because uh, they can't understand that there's a supreme personality Godhead who has this unfathomable power to create everything at one time. You know, so all the species were born or created right in the beginning of time. They did not evolve one to the other, and there's no proof that different species are created. Well, I mean, here we are living in this world. Do you ever see like a cat becoming a dog? Well, or you see an ant that becomes a hog or something? There's no proof. You have to have proof of these things. How can it be science if you can't experiment and prove that your theory is right? You say, yes.
So it says 40% of Americans now believe that God created life.
What's the percentage?
45, less than 50.
Yeah,
So the other percentage would be around
55 morons. Yes. So, where's the proof? Okay, give us the proof. Show us how, the first amoeba appears. You know, they have no explanation for it. You see, the whole idea of evolution is it starts from a one-celled amoeba. Okay, but how did the one-celled amoeba appear? They don't know. They have no explanation for it. So the whole theory falls apart. There has to be some other origin, but not this idea that somehow one cell was born or was created by not by God, but by some combination of matter, right? And then from there, their theory of evolution takes place. But they can't explain how the first molecule or first creature was born. You see, so there's no proof. So then it's not a theory; it's speculation, complete speculation. Yeah. Yes.
And then it's
Okay.
also
Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Let's look up. Uh, what is the scientific method? What is the scientific method? Because if there's scientists, they have to follow the scientific method, right? Of validation of something. So you see something, and then you have to you have maybe an idea how that something appeared, and then you have to have some experimentation to show how it appeared. Yes.
basic steps of scientific method are observation.
Yeah.
Noting or perceiving something. So they're not observing that this became that. So
Yeah. Keep reading. It's not only observation.
question, asking a question, hypothesis, forming a possible answer to the question based on observations, theories, and other information. Prediction, making a testable statement about what the outcome of an investigation will be on the hypothesis. Experiment, conducting a detailed procedure to test the hypothesis.
Perfect.
Conclusion,
Okay. So where's the experiment to
step
prove
one,
that the first let's say amoeba was created from matter without the intervention of a superior being. Where is show us how the first amoeba was made, because the whole idea of evolution is starting from the first amoeba, first one-celled living being, and show us how matter created that first being. They don't have. There's no experimentation. They don't have any proof. You see, it's like a palace that's made out of cardboard, you know, or a deck of cards. You go like that, and the whole thing, you know, explodes. And it's destroyed. Yeah, go ahead.
so they also experiment is step 5, but they also have to do like step 1. They didn't even observe it.
Yeah.
Like step 1 is observing.
Well, how can they observe something when the whole thing is wrong? You see, but yet they teach it in school. They're still teaching it in school, right? That's yeah. I mean, it's crazy, and they call it science. It's not science. It's what you would call speculation. Yeah.
So here is the conclusion. The first amoeba was likely the product of billions of years of evolution, beginning with the formation of simple organic modules on early Earth, followed by the development of self-replicating molecules, formation of protocells, and the gradual evolution of complex and eukaryotic cells. Amoebas, as we know them today, are a result of this long evolutionary process adapted to their specific environments over time.
Blah 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 blah. No truth, no experimentation at all. That's just a theory. They have to prove it, right? So the scientists don't follow the scientific process. This is what's interesting. They make a lot of blah blah blah, but they don't have any experiment to prove it. Uh, so, and it's taught as science. This is what's going on, and kids can't figure this out. You put a kid in the school and they do this blah 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 explanation, And they think, oh, okay, now I know how, life started. Yeah. And it could take them a lifetime to realize the whole thing is a hoax. It's not actually true, or they don't never understand. And they say, well, we know how life started. What are you talking about? We know how life started.
We grew up with that. Okay, this is the truth.
Yeah, exactly, because they're scientists, they're educated, and they're PhDs. And I met this one guy uh, uh, at a farm, and he gave me his card, and it said, John so and so, PhD. I asked him, I said, oh, you're a PhD? He said, yeah. And he said, I'm uh, a what is that?
Just
Post, post,
whole digger.
yeah, I'm a post hole digger, PhD. He had a card like that.
Post. The whole digger. He digs the hole that where he can put it.
He gives me the card, PhD, post hole digger. Oh my God, but actually he's right, he's making fun of all.
So he's offering his services, Maharaj.
Yeah.
That he will get.
And I met him at the farm, and he gave me his card, I looked at it. PhD. I said, where'd you get your PhD? He said, no, I'm a post hole digger. uh, there's some really funny people out there. And actually, he's right. He's making fun of all this nonsense. Uh, so, uh, anyway, uh, okay. So here it says, after fulfilling his responsibility to produce nice children, one should take uh, sannyasa and engage in the perfectional Paramahansa stage. Well, okay, he's doing his duty. He's producing, with his wife, one child, and then right away he takes up, sannyas or Paramahansa stage. Uh, so this is actually what great personalities do. Now, it doesn't say that he was married and he had, like 10 kids, and he died, you know, actually, sometimes you see these articles how husband and wife, they died together after being married for 60 years, right? And they have a picture of them holding hands. And then first the wife dies, and then next the husband dies. You know, and it's basically almost at the same time. And they show you, how they're holding hands at the moment of death. It's not like that. What does it say here? It says that after fulfilling his responsibility to produce a nice child, one should take sannyasa and engage in the perfectional Paramahansa stage. The Paramahansa refers to the most highly elevated perfectional stage of life. There are 4 stages within sannyasa type life, and Paramahansa is the highest order. The Srimad Bhagavatam is called Paramahansa Samhita, the treatise for the highest class of human beings. Okay, now this is what Prabhupada is teaching. Not only Prabhupada, even before Prabhupada, the whole Vedic, philosophy is to what? It's called Paramahansa Samhita, the treatise for the highest class of human beings. The Paramahansa is free from envy in order to stage even in other stages, even in the householder stage of life, there is competition and envy. But since the activities of the human being in the Paramahansa stage are completely engaged in Krishna consciousness or devotional service, there's no scope for envy. In the same order as Kardama Muni about 100 years ago, Thakur Bhakti Vinoda also wanted to beget a child who could preach the philosophy and teachings of Lord Chaitanya to the fullest extent. By his prayers to the Lord, he had as his child Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj, who at the present moment is preaching the philosophy of Lord Chaitanya throughout the entire world through his bona fide disciples. Okay, so Prabhupada is his bona fide disciple, and he has other bona fide disciples, and they're all preaching the philosophy of Lord Chaitanya. Okay, so this is called the Paramahansa Samhita, the treatise for the highest class of human beings. And this is what Prabhupada is teaching. How to become, a Paramahansa Samhita, the highest class of human beings. Now, that's a big responsibility. But if we're in Krishna consciousness, we should understand this is the ultimate, let's say, goal that we should become a Paramahansa Samhita. We should become a Paramahansa, the highest order. So there's 4 orders within the sannyas life, but the highest is Paramahansa. So, unfortunately, the word Paramahansa is used by other so-called sadhus or so-called saintly people. Just like they call, what's his name, Paramahansa Yogananda. Yeah. And Nityananda, Paramahansa Nityananda, right? So they basically bastardized the meaning of the word Paramahansa. But the real Paramahansa is like Prabhupada, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, the Vaishnava Acharyas, so forth. They're the real Paramahansas, not these phony modern so-called Paramahansas. Okay, Paramahansa refers to the most highly elevated perfectional stage of life. There are 4 stages within the sannyasa life, and Paramahansa is the highest order. So that means that if you're going to be in the highest order of Paramahansa, you have to be celibate, completely celibate. You can't be married or anything like that. You have to be completely past all of that to achieve that Paramahansa stage. Now, what does it say about Bhaktivinoda Thakur? It says, Bhaktivinoda Thakur also wanted to beget a child who could preach the philosophy and teachings of Lord Chaitanya to the fullest extent. By his prayers to the Lord, he had as his child Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj, who at the present moment is preaching the philosophy of Lord Chaitanya through the entire world through his bona fide disciples. The Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, or Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj, he was a brahmachari. He never took the title, if I'm not mistaken, he never took the title of a sannyasi. He remained a brahmachari his whole life. He never got married. So he was a brahmachari his whole life. But he was a Paramahansa. This means he's free of envy.
So
Okay, yeah.
Maharaj, I just Googled, search for like what are the 4 stages within sannyasa Sharma.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, the third stage is Paribrajikacharya, which is what
He
we
travels.
travels. Yeah.
Yeah.
At the first stage is
He stays at home.
Kuti Shaka. In the initial stage, the sannyasi lives near the family,
Yeah.
or in a small hermitage.
Yeah, he lives close to the family. Yeah.
But often still in contact with society.
Yeah.
He practices detachment from material possessions and begins to lead a simple life focused on spiritual practices.
Right.
So this is the purpose of this stage is to focus on gradually withdrawing from the worldly responsibilities while maintaining minimal connections with the society. Then the next stage is Bahudaka sannyasi. In the Bahudaka stage, the sannyasi further reduces his connection with family and society, and he travels from place to place carrying a water pot and minimal essentials, hence the name Bahudaka, one who carries water. Purpose. The sannyasi now practices more intense renunciation, relying on alms collected from various places as he moves around and engaging more in spiritual discourse and teaching. Then the third stage is the Parivrajkacharya. At this stage, the sannyasi becomes a wandering ascetic Parivrajaka, traveling continuously without settling in any one place for long. He renounces all possessions except essential items and engages fully in spreading spiritual teachings and uplifting others. And then finally, the Paramahamsa stage. This is the highest stage of sannyasa, wherein the renunciate achieves the ultimate level of detachment and spiritual realization. Paramahamsa lives in a state of constant God consciousness, often giving up even outward symbols of renunciation.
Very good. Okay, so Paramahansas are the highest class of human beings. Paramahansa is free from envy. In other stages, even in the householder stage of life, there's competition and envy. But since the activities of the human being in the Paramahansa stage are completely engaged in Krishna consciousness or devotional service, there is no scope for envy. In the same order as Kardama Muni, about 100 years ago, Thakur Vinoda also wanted to beget a child who could preach the philosophy and teachings of Lord Chaitanya to the fullest extent. By his prayers to the Lord, he had as his child Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj, who at the present moment is preaching the philosophy of Lord Chaitanya throughout the entire world through his bona fide disciples like Prabhupada. Okay, so that is a Paramahansa, highest class of human beings. So when someone assumes the name of Paramahansa, but that actually they're not, that's where people get confused. So you have to know what it means to be Paramahansa. It's the highest stage of sannyas, where you're completely free of envy, lust, and passion, greed, and you completely dedicated 24 hours a day, your whole life, in Krishna consciousness. Above all, the Paramahansa is free from envy. Envy means you see someone that has something that you don't have, and you want to have what they have, something material. So, if you get what they have, then your envy sort of, goes down. But there are people that are not satisfied to get the same thing as the person that they envy. They want to make that person lose what they have. They're the most dangerous people in the world. And there are people like that. They're not satisfied until the other person loses what they have. So sometimes there's a wife whose husband uh, cheats on the wife. Then she becomes determined to ruin the husband. So it's not enough that they get divorced. The wife wants to see the husband, lose everything he has, and then even goes further and wants to see the husband thrown out of the United States. They can never come back again, and so forth. Uh, so that is, in other words, is very dangerous mentality to be in. Should we forgive people that commit sinful activities? To a certain extent, yes. And nobody is perfect. But if they don't learn from their mistakes, then there has to be separation. Now, separation is not bad, because the whole idea of separation is you're giving a person a chance to rehabilitate. And if they rehabilitate, then okay, they come back again. If they don't rehabilitate, then that's it, there's separation for good. Okay, so we're almost finished. Are there any questions or comments?
So you also used to say like marriage is as a vow to never get separated. So under what circumstances?
Is there separation?
Yeah.
Well, let's say the husband becomes an alcoholic, right? And most alcoholics, they get violent sometimes, or most of the time. So there should be separation until the alcoholic can, uh, you know, give up his bad habits. Then they can come back and live together again. Married life. So separation is there's nothing wrong with separation. Should one immediately get a divorce? No. They should give the person who is failing in their responsibility to be a good husband or be a good wife or whatever the time to rehabilitate themselves. And if it looks like they're never going to rehabilitate themselves, then the separation will continue indefinitely. Should there be divorce? Well, divorce is not a good thing. Uh, People should be satisfied. Okay, maybe I'm still young, but should I get married again? Uh, no, you shouldn't do that. You should just be take complete shelter of Krishna. Of course, a lot of people get married a second time, then sometimes a third time, and sometimes a fourth time. That doesn't really solve the problem. And they might say, "Oh no, I'm much happier right now," but that doesn't really serve the problem. Uh, the problem is having lusty desires. So the best thing is that if you end up marrying a bad husband or a bad wife, you can accept that as Krishna's mercy, and now you can just completely dedicate your life to Krishna consciousness. So that would be the best thing to do. Okay. Sometimes the person says, "Well, so and so is my first ex, so and so is my second ex, and so and so is my third ex, and now I'm working on my fourth ex." That's not complete nonsense. But there are people like that. There are people like that. Okay, there are no more questions. Are there any more questions?
An observation.
Yes.
Yes, initially Dhamma ordered Prajapatis to produce children, and Prajapatis they ordered their children to produce children. But when we have these Kardamuni personalities, they object to the father's order. So that's the way they navigate. Interesting.
Who rejected?
Kardamuni.
Even Brahma's first four Kumaras
Four Kumaras
Kumara
rejected.
rejected.
He, Gardamuni had one child.
Okay, ma'am.
he accepted the responsibility to just produce one child. And
Yeah, it's the Kumaras who rejected.
From the beginning of the creation, like there were personalities, they objected to the father's wish.
Well, I mean, it's the Kumaras, but they had a valid reason, you know.
Yeah.
they're accepting the Supreme Father's wish.
Yeah.
By the
So, if someone rejects, but later on you find out they're engaged in illicit sex, they're just nonsense people. Yeah. There are people like that. Like, in ISKCON, there were people that they went to India and they started living in places where there were, uh, so-called Paramahansas or so-called very highly advanced, uh, uh, you know, sannyasis and things like that. But, those sannyasis were still smoking ganja. So they went there and they joined them. There were ISKCON devotees, but then they joined the sannyasis that smoked marijuana and also had girlfriends. Unfortunately, there are people like that in India, and they fell down because they were dressed like sadhus, but they would smoke. They would smoke marijuana, and also they had some girlfriends. So that the whole uh, purification of oneself is destroyed by associating with people like that. People like that make you convinced that you can break the rules and regulations of Krishna consciousness, all at the same time claiming that you're a sadhu. And that is, the most abominable thing. But yet, that's going on in India, and not only India, all over the world. Yeah, you have all these very high-powered Christian preachers, and then you find out they have girlfriends, they have fancy cars, they're rich, and but actually they're very fallen. What you can do, look up uh, all the spiritual Christian spiritual uh, ministers who fell down. There's a whole list of them. A whole list of them. These are people that have hundreds, sometimes thousands of followers. Like you have these. You go to a police station. There are pictures of wanted people, right? So you could do the same thing, with uh, Christian ministers who have fallen down. Right? You have pictures of them.
Jim Baker, Jimmy Swagger,
Yeah, we call it Jim Baker. We call him
Carl,
Jim the Faker.
Carl and Julius Baker, Tony Camargo. Different reasons why they're
And Maharaj, the reasons are
It says some reasons of these falls include toxic leadership,
Oh, it's not their fault.
financial mismanagement, sexual failure,
Financial mismanagement means they were pocketing the money instead of. You say financial mismanagement almost sounds like, not really that bad.
right?
It wasn't his fault, he just mismanaged.
The third one is sexual failure. Next is
Well, see, sexual failure. Instead of sexual failure, they should say sexual indulgence. Go ahead.
over emphasizing external gifts.
What? Oh, emphasizing
Yeah.
external gifts?
External gifts.
Yeah, in other words, they were living lavishly and spending the money of the church on their lavish lifestyle.
Another is under emphasizing internal character.
Under emphasizing
Internal character.
internal character. In other words, they were rogues. The way they say it, it sounds like, well, maybe it's okay.
Sophisticated land.
Yeah.
This is a big list. And one of the lines says, unfortunately, the list of fallen Christian leaders seems to grow with every passing week.
Weak. Whoa. Pretty soon it'll be every passing day.
In recent years, there has been an avalanche of scandal.
Wow.
Then
That's why
a lot of-
people lose their faiths in Christianity and God. Yeah. You know how devastating it is? Someone's a minister or someone's a sannyasi or a good preacher in Krishna consciousness and they fall down. It's devastating. For the
Disgusting.
Huh?
Disgusting.
Yeah. And it's happened a lot and it's gone a lot. Some devotees who had, like hundreds and thousands of devotees, disciples fell down. And they're still around, people see them. They come to programs and things like that. They see their disciples, but they're no longer, following the guru because the guru's fallen. Yeah, it's very sad. Okay, Haribol. All glories to Srila Prabhupada ki jai.